You're listening to More Than Steps, the podcast where we geek out on how belly dance works, one coffee run at a time. I'm your hostess, Nadira Jamal.
My first grade teacher, Sheila, was a model. And I remember her telling us a story about when she was walking in a runway show and one of her high heels fell off. She just kicked off the other shoe and kept walking. Now, why would she tell a story like this to 6-year-olds? Well, the lesson that she wanted us to take away is that mistakes happen. And when they do, instead of having a meltdown, the trick is to just take care of the problem and calmly move on. That's something that stuck with me, and it's also served me well on stage, because that also applies to stage mistakes. And these happen all the time. Costume malfunctions, maybe you trip, or you turn the wrong way in a troupe choreography. The thing is a mistake isn't a catastrophe unless we advertise it. So what does advertising your mistakes mean? This is when your expression or your body language inform the audience that you messed up. This can be anything from a quick oops face to maintaining this cringing posture through the rest of your performance, like you're begging for forgiveness. And why is advertising your mistakes such a problem? Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that your mistakes aren't as obvious as you think. Most people won't notice most mistakes as long as you don't actually advertise them. And even if people do notice, they usually don't care, unless you signal to them in some way that they should feel bad. Now, this feeling bad isn't usually a judgy quality. Usually they're feeling bad for you and sympathizing with you. But the problem is that that bad feeling takes them out of the moment and makes it memorable. The thing is, negative feelings make memories stronger. Really. Neuroscience has actually shown that any strong emotion can make memories stick, but especially negative ones. And so even if the audience member notices in the moment that you've made a mistake, it will probably slip their mind by the end of the show as long as you don't trigger negative emotions. And advertising your mistakes does do exactly that. So how do you stop advertising your mistakes? Well, step one is to notice. Start paying attention. When does that advertising happen? How do you feel in your body when it does? How do you feel emotionally? What action do you take, or what face do you make? And if you're not sure, you can watch yourself on video or ask your teacher or a friend to give you input. Now, the ideal response is to just not let your face respond to mistakes at all. But that's not always realistic, especially at first. So an easier place to start is by replacing oops faces with something else. One good choice is to smile. Just make sure it's not an apologetic smile. This should be a relaxed, pleasant, oh, wasn't that a trivial little thing kind of smile. Because in that case, the folks that didn't notice your mistake will think that you're smiling because you're happy or because you're engaging with them. You can also take a nice, relaxed sigh. Just make sure that it doesn't sound like a sigh of frustration or disappointment. It should be like slipping into a hot bath. Whatever you choose for your replacement action, just make sure that it's something that puts the audience at ease. Once you've selected that, practice it in class and even in everyday life, so it will be a habit that occurs on stage as well as everywhere else. For example, I have my own students practice that in class when we're preparing for our annual recital, and it really comes in handy. In fact, this past year, 2 dancers got their costumes tangled, and they were right in the front row. But they handled it like champs. They calmly untangled the costume pieces and then jumped right back into the choreography on the beat. I was so proud, and one of the dancer's daughters, who was sitting right up front, didn't even remember that it happened. Those beginners handled the issue like champs, and you can too. So start paying attention to how you advertise your mistakes and work to replace them with something that will put the audience at ease. And if this is something that you'd like to work on in more detail, I have a lot of other stage presence tips in my instructional video, Expression and Improv, which you can find at bellydancegeek.com/store. And if you're listening to this in November of 2017, we are having a Black Friday sale. So you can get it for 25% off starting Friday, November 24th through Monday, November 27th. Just enter coupon code FRIDAY in capital letters, which will get you 25% off anything in our store.
Thanks for listening. For more geektacular resources, visit bellydancegeek.com.